Chad, I got like 8 ways to go this morning. You're an expert on NAFTA. You're an expert on the dynamics of immigration. How do we deport someone? When we deport, what do they do? Get a business class ticket to Mexico City? What actually happens when we deport someone?
Well, I think you raise a fundamentally important question, which is actually deportation requires that the receiving country, be willing to accept the folks that the United States is seeking to get rid of. And so it requires cooperation on the other end. And they're going to want to have assurances and documentation that whoever is being deported into their territory is actually one of their citizens as well. So some of the initiatives that the Trump administration is proposing, will require significant international cooperation amongst key partners.
Okay, so is it like a bad Tom Hanks movie? We go to El Paso and there's 6 guys lined up ready to go back to Mexico. They have to accept them, right?
That's right, and I think this also, this concerns the bigger overall question between U.S.-Mexico relations, and at the same time that we have these big concerns and discussions over immigration, we're also worried about NAFTA and what the United States and the Trump administration and the potential renegotiation of that agreement are as well.
Right.
So all of these things are getting tied together.
From where you sit at Peterson, I'm fascinated by this. Can we do normal stuff? Can we do tax reform and all the other good things everybody wants to do, repatriation of corporate earnings and all that? Can we do that with the distraction of an immigration debate?
Well, it's going to be really hard. We don't do tax reform that often in the United States. The last major tax reform that we undertook was back in the Reagan administration. It's a tough slog, and there's going to be a lot of interest lining up, and we've already seen that in the United States with the House Republican proposal. We've got big business lined up on both sides of the debate over this, in particular, the border tax adjustment proposal. We've got importers, the retailers especially, that have come out strongly against it. We have big exporting companies, Boeing, GE, pharmaceutical companies, that are strongly in favor of it. And it's going to require, ultimately, leadership by the president, by the Congress, to push forward on tax reform. And if they're being heavily distracted by a number of other matters like immigration or the Affordable Care Act, it's going to make it equally tough.
Chad, I just quickly wanted to go back to these undocumented immigrants. I mean, I'm looking at reports. One of them says they could cost the economy as much as $5 trillion over the next 10 years. What does your research tell us? Well,
I think the research on immigration is mixed. There are a lot of studies that actually suggest that the net contribution of immigrants into the U.S. economy is actually a positive fiscally, that they contribute much more to fiscal revenues and tax receipts than they actually draw out of the system because they are undocumented. They don't get access necessarily to programs like Social Security upon retirement. So I think the labor market concerns are one. I think the overall concerns about uncertainty that this kind of policy is going to introduce, if it's a major disruption to certain types of industries, agriculture in particular, that are heavily reliant on seasonal and migrant labor, this could actually have big costs, economic costs for the U.S. economy.